what I want to do is I want to pick up where I left you last time. So my time management was a little bit off. So I want to pick up on the on the worksheet assignment and just show you an example that I'm involved in right now. And then we will actually use that search that we created and demo this in Scopus. And I will show you a few things that I'm paying attention to when I'm doing this. So then hopefully by, let's say 8:30, you have to remind me, we will transact to talk about citation management, reference management. I'll show you a few things that you can do within a research database like Scopus, but then I will show you a few things about Zotero and other software packages. So this is how I could learn. And then Mary was so kind to share the feedback you gave for the reflection. So that was really great to read. So there's a lot of good information. It looks like you really arrived at grad school. So thinking about these questions, thinking about the importance of having a strategy in place, because you cannot settle with just finding something. You might get away with this in the undergrad program, but in the grad program, you really have to be confident that you have a strategy in place that allows you to really dig into the evidence right away without having a lot of non-academic resources in that in your results. So that's great. There are a few things that were raised, a few questions. I think you addressed a few. So I thought I may take just a few moments to point out a few things and remind a few things. Looks like we had a bit of a sound issue. I was standing there, and it looks like the mic's only picking up here, so a few people might have missed some of the things that I said. If that question, I guess that's all. Just please let me know, email me, or anyway you feel comfortable, stop by or email me or call me, and we can talk about this. I think some of the issues were with the distance learner colleagues, which are some are online, maybe not, but it's kind of difficult because they are kind of watching the video without really having a way of raising their hand and asking a question. So one question was the availability of resources. So in general, all the resources are available for everyone. So it doesn't really matter whether you're on campus or whether you are off campus. So we have really the same set of resources available to you, and also in terms of library services, we really try to make this available in any way that you would need it. So with the electronic resources, really it is important to use the off-campus sign-in to connect. I think there were a few people who had issues with hitting paywalls. Without knowing everything about the context, it's kind of difficult to troubleshoot what actually happened. So it could be an authentication issue, but it could also be that we don't have an access, we don't have a subscription, so we don't have access to a resource. If you do everything right, meaning you open the library homepage, you use the Books and More tab, which gives you access to the library catalog, you do your search there, you navigate to the resource, be it a journal or an ebook or a research database, you should authenticate automatically, so you should not run into any of the issues. But sometimes things are not included. I think I mentioned that, and sometimes we have some technical issues on our side. So if you run into troubles, let me know. If you should see a link. If you go through this process, you should see a link. Like find it, or a link that indicates that this is access to the full text. And if it tries to connect to the full text that we have, and if we don't have it for whatever reason, it should connect you to Article Express. And sometimes this fails. So, but you can always manually navigate to Article Express from the homepage, and then put in a request for an article or a book chapter. It doesn't work for entire books because of copyright. So that's really important. So you should not really pay for these resources. We go and if we really don't have something, we buy it. Okay. So don't feel afraid of asking for this. And if you missed it, that's fine too. My colleague Nikolai Ballon will just show you how to get to that, and we'll write you an email. So there's nothing to be afraid of. So use that. The other thing is if you have print, if you need something in print, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but if you there was a distance education problem. We have, if you not a problem, but a question. So if you have something that you need, it's not easy to actually find some print stuff. And here's one, okay? So if you want this item and you're not on campus, you go to request this item, you have the option after you log in with your name, your OSU ID. The very bottom is a category distance user. So that's if you're out of state. You can use that option, and then you pass it to you. So we have your home address in our system, and you pass it on, for you. It doesn't happen a whole lot. We don't get a whole lot of requests, but we do. The thing is, it's on you to return it. Okay, so the return, you have to pay for the return. But that's one option. The other option, if you are in Ohio and you don't have access to, you see there's all our branch campuses are here. If you don't have access to any of these, you can find the same, the same resource in our Ohio link catalog. That was another question. What's the difference between our library catalog and Ohio link and the WordKit? So our catalog is that what we own. And then we all gave our records, the entire catalog, to Ohio Link, and they created an Ohio Link record, and all other libraries in Ohio, academic libraries, did the same thing. So our catalog is completely into, part of the Ohio Link. It's a subset of the Ohio Link catalog, and so are all the other libraries. So you can find every item that we have also in the Ohio Link catalog. So if you just use the Ohio Link button, it will actually find the same item here, say Ohio State, and find another one, but you can request this, and then you pick, first thing you pick your institution, so that's what's Ohio State, okay, and then you will have the option to select a pickups institution. So maybe there's an Ohio institution that's near you. You can pick. So if you're living near Youngstown, maybe that's an option. You can have our stuff delivered to Youngstown State, and then pick the library that's best for you. You can also have an Ohio Link item. And then you take your bug ID to the REF circulation desk, and they will check it out with your bug ID. So you don't have to. So it works for all Ohio Link institutions, including the state library. You can also have stuff sent with your OSU ID from one Ohio Link to another. So it doesn't really, you can send stuff from Toledo to Youngstown and pick it up with your ID. Okay. So I just want to make sure. And if none of this works, I know some of you work in extension offices maybe. We have tried to use the extension mail, whatever the name is. It kind of works, but it takes an awful lot of time. So if you have something that you need, just let me know, and we can just appreciate it. But I don't really have an account for that. So. Okay, people research databases list, and that's some people alerted me or reflected that it's kind of difficult to find what the database. We have so many, and that's I agree. That's really a challenge. So we have a lot of databases to choose from. So we have a research database list that helps a little bit. We have subject guides that you can look at, such as this one that I created. All my colleagues, you can go to the subject librarians, and they have colleagues and they have guides that helps you a little bit. And then it's just part of the process to finding out what database are useful for that question. And if you're not sure, that's what we're here for. So just shoot me an email or call me, and we can talk about options that you have. It's often that you will find content in multiple places. So there's some overlap, which is good, but then it's also unique content. So you actually have to go to multiple places in a lot of cases to really find everything on a topic. So that's part of the process. And I would just go, I have a lot of bookmark here that databases that I'm using. So that's whatever you, I mean, you can just go to the library catalog and just as you search for a book, you can search for database. Just type in make sure you're in the books and more tab, and then search Scopus or something. Or you can just bookmark it. There's on my guide, there was this off-campus sign-in link that you can use in front of the vendor's URL. If it's Scopus, for example, here's an example. So you can bookmark it if you're working from home. It should work. So any of these things. Okay. Yeah, I think that's maybe one more thing. And that gets actually right at the search. So some people started to explore the doing keyword searches, and that's really that's part of the process. And I understand that there's challenges just finding the right keyword. So it's not that you have this sheet and you're sitting and you're finding, I think these are the 5 keywords that I want to use to describe this concept. So, and it's obviously an iterative process where you have to go out and do some scoping searches and find some literature. Maybe you have an article that you came across that gives you some some hints to look for, but it's not something that, I mean, you have to. This is kind of not really reflected in this workshop, that you actually have to. You most likely have to do actually some searches before you actually be able to really follow through this whole workshop. So I know we'll talk about this. Just want to remind you, if you are, how to do this. Maybe the I think I can. So there was one, I thought it was a good example. One of you was searching for rare breeds, livestock breed, endangered breeds. What's going on here? So in this case, which may tell me, so what is this? Oh, no. I have my guide, so I just go to my guide and see. Here's a so try it again. Huh. Didn't like the see for some reason. Okay. So if you do a search like this, rare livestock breeds or something, okay? So I talked about if this is an exact phrase, you can put it in quotation mark. So you got 139, but a lot of these records seem to be older and not super relevant. Doesn't have a lot of information. But if you scroll down, you can actually see the subject terms listed right here, or you have to open it. And that gives you, some, I guess if you do a phrase search because you're thinking this is a term, that's worth trying. So sometimes, you only get 15, right? If you take this off, you get 139. Some of the databases, if you don't provide any Boolean, it will do either and or it will do or. So that really, there's no unity. I mean, they all do this differently. So you have to know, explore it and try what they're actually doing. So in this case, actually, it tries to find them all in your search. That's why you get so few. So one way to do is to look for the subject terms like that. So here's one article, and that's a little bit. So you have to look for this. So here's one, and that actually indicates that maybe the term is not maybe rare livestock breeds. It's really rare breeds, just rare breeds. Okay. So and if you do that and change that and change this to a descriptor search instead of a keyword search. Actually, if you do a keyword search, an all text search, it will search all fields. But you want to be as precise as you can in these fields. So you do a descriptor search, and you will see It's confused because it's actually not in the advanced search mode. Okay, didn't find more. Oh, okay. So that was not helpful. Let me see. Okay. It should have found like 300 or something. So I'm not sure why it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. But you get the idea, okay? So you can use the NIL-Thesaurus, and that's referenced in my guide. Sorry. To help with the terms, okay? So so if you have rare livestock or something, you can just see whether this is a term that Agricola or the other databases understand. Let's see what happens. Doesn't find anything. So, but I had the idea I saw earlier that like rare breeds, right? So I can just try rare or just rare breeds, and it should come up right here. So you have to, yeah, okay. So you have to go back and forth a little bit, and now it gives me it tells me the broader term is breed. So I might want to try that term. It also gives me a mixed term. Okay, so doesn't give you a whole lot to go with, but it gives you some information. So now if you use the rare breeds term, it should pull up articles that may not use of that term in the title abstract or the author supply keyword, but in the descriptor terms, which are either in the past it used to be indexers sitting there going through this and make a decision whether what subjects this article covers. These days it's all machine indexing, so automatic indexing. But you can use this thesaurus to really get, to really find the right terms. So it's one way of using these terms. There's cap abstract or cap direct. And maybe I'm thinking about it, maybe I used the cap abstract when I tried this search, and that's where they pulled in so many more articles. I apologize for that. Equivoc is another vocabulary. Equivoc is from the FRO, and it works with 15 different languages. So you can also, if you think like rare breeds and livestock, so there's a lot of French literature, coming out of Africa on that topic, for example. And if you want to pick those literatures up, then it might be good to try actually French search terms. And Equivoc helps you with translating all this. Okay, so are there any questions? I think I will move to the to my example. So the worksheet and a few of you commented that there was I think it was an evaluation class or a methods class. Somebody else was referring to, I think it's the spider framework, and recommended this to you. So there's I'm certainly not the one that came up with this framework. So they're widely used in all of different fields. So it's great that get used to it. And then it really helps to the idea really is to reflect on a question, help you to structure the question, but really reflect on all the components. So it's not the only way of approaching this, but I think it's just a tool that you can use. And